Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Michael Burke with InterDyn BMI. And just a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. We do have an upcoming GP webinar series, and we have these scheduled to go on throughout the month, and they do focus on a variety of topics, and we can get a little bit more details on the sessions. Here's an overview of the free upcoming webinars hosted throughout June, just in case there are any on here that interest you that you haven't yet seen. You can find more information about each of these webinars on the events page on our website, and this is also where you will find a link for registration. The next webinar is on June 7th, and we'll focus on secrets to a successful upgrade. Additionally, we're excited to announce that we have 3 different campaigns going on through Q2. The first is E1, and they're offering a 25% off Smart List Builder, Extender, and Smart View. They have a few upcoming webinars in case you want to get a feel for the solutions at all. And next, if you're considering on upgrading, then we'd like to offer you a one-on-one with our consultant who gives you more information about the new features based on GP on what you're currently using. And lastly, we do have that final webinar taking place in early June. And the last campaign that we're focusing on is BI, and we have a variety of webinars going on through June. Now, if you'd like to learn about anything more in Dynamics GP, including tips and tricks or any educational videos, then stop by our Let's Talk GP blog. The URL is on the page right now. And today we will be focusing on Dynamics GP 2015 and 2016, features for all. Today will be presented by Sandy Wickman of InterDyn BMI. Sandy is the GP product manager for BMI and has worked with GP as a consultant for 16 plus years. She also has past experience with contract roles with GP, so she's worked both as a peer and now as a consultant. And just a last housekeeping items to go over. We started the call by muting everyone. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please use the question box feature or the raised hand icon, which are both located on the dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. We will be recording the session and uploading to YouTube, and we'll include a link in the follow-up email. Lastly, we will have some time for Q&A with Sandy at the end of today's webinar, and we'll be covering all the questions submitted then. And that should cover all the housekeeping. So with that, I will change it back over to you, Sandy, and I will let you know when we can all see your screen. Okay, coming up clear.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone, for taking time out of your day to participate in this webinar with us. This is part of a series. The series is 3 parts, and this is part number 2. The first one had to do with why upgrade, and then how to have a successful upgrade will be part number 3. So as Michael mentioned, this is part of that series. There's 3 parts to it. So although there are a lot of great things in the GP 2016 release that are not necessarily features, our focus today is going to be on features. So we're just going to look in terms of the things that make your GP user experience awesome. By way of note, what I'm speaking about is that there are HTML web clients as a part of GP 2016 and some OData things that are really great new features or new options for you, but not necessarily features. So we're focusing today on features, things that might make your GP experience more valuable to your end users. So we're going to start by looking at the GP roadmap. We've come a long way since GP 2012. There's been a great deal of new features added, new functionality added over that period of time. The GP 2016 release was May 1st, so just a couple of weeks ago, and that 2016 user features profile has had as many as 35 new features added in GP 2016. We're going to be targeting a lot of our conversation today around 2015 and 2016. And by way of note, GP 2016 R2, believe it or not, is already on the roadmap, and it's looking to be either November of this year or potentially early next year. There's still some internal conversation at Microsoft about whether they want to roll out a new R2 version right before year end because of payroll changes in tax tables, or whether they'd wait until early 2017. But really, you know, 6 or 8 months from now, we will have an R2 release. So things keep moving along quite rapidly as we move towards as we look at this roadmap and the way that the cadence is for new releases for GP. So we have a couple of polls in our webinar today, and I'd like to ask Michael if he would go ahead and run poll number 1, please.
No problem. I will launch that right now. You guys should be able to see this right now. So the question is, what version of GP are you currently operating? We'll go ahead and give a minute here for you guys all to get your answers in. Okay, we'll go about 15 seconds. We got the majority answers in right now. So perfect. We get about 46% on later version than GP2013. We got 33% on GP2015, 8% on GP2010 or older, and 8% that do not know.
Great. Thanks very much, Michael. It's good to know where everyone's starting from today. Okay, so we're going to look first at GP2015 R2 features and a little bit of a review of some of the things that are available to us in that R2 release. So we're not necessarily suggesting that at InterDyn that everyone go to GP2016 quite yet. And the majority of the reason for that is that our ISVs, or those companion products that we offer as a full solution for your ERP solution, have as much as 90 days as a Gold ISV partner to be able to get their code compatible with the GP2016 that was released on May 1st. So we want to make sure that they have sufficient amount of time to have those companion products brought up to a code release that we would be able to then upgrade you along with all of these ISV products that you may have included in your installation. So for those of you who find that there's functionality available to you in 2015 R2 that meets your current needs to be able to get those upgrades in place, we certainly are in a position to be able to upgrade you to 2015 R2 at any time now. It sounds like there's a few of you who are on some older versions, and this would be a great opportunity for you to get up to a version that has a good deal of supportability behind it. You know, the amount of time that that 2015 R2 would be supported is still quite a good length of time, and gives you a whole host of additional features that you may not already have. So one of the really great ones that I am really pleased to tell you about is an all-in-one document viewer on purchasing. Great new addition to the feature set. I won't go through every single one of these in terms of bullet points, but we're going to look at a few of them in a demo environment in just a few minutes. A couple of the other enhancements to Smart Lists have been really well received. There are some new things in terms of time management and the employee self-serve information, Social Security numbers, W-2s that you can make available to your employees so that they have access to their own information, can make changes to their own information, and even be able to route those independent changes through a workflow such that it goes to your payroll department for approval before it actually impacts your payroll data. So great options there. Some abilities to be able to email forms that we didn't have before, and so forth. In the 2016 feature set, we have two additional all-in-one viewers. The inventory and the sales modules each have their own all-in-one viewer in this 2016 release. Again, great opportunities for being able to have some efficiencies with your users where they don't have to go to multiple screens to find all the details they need about an inquiry on an inventory transaction. Another really great feature in 2016 is the ability to be able to pay a group of your accounts payable by choosing credit card as the payment method. We're going to take a look at that as well. Several new things with regard to payroll again, including some inactive pay codes and some payroll posting accounts availability that wasn't available before. Great efficiencies there. Being able to auto-deposit cash receipts into BankRec was available in 2015 R2, but it was individual transactions were being deposited by each transaction as opposed to by batch in 2015 R2. So in 2016 they added the ability to be able to do that by batch. So that's a huge improvement from being able to do the two steps that we had in 2015 and previous versions. So you can have those two-step processes reduced to a single step now. And then some additional efficiencies around the workflows, reassigning them so that the person who they were reassigned to gets an email, and some additional condition management. So we're going to talk first about some of these new features with regard to the business intelligence section of our features list. So in the top of this window pane, you'll notice that I've posted which of these are available in GP2015 R2 versus the ones that are available in GP2016. So as you're watching this webinar today, you might take note of which features you're most interested in and which version those are in, so that you can help to drive to the version that you would have the most interest in the feature set based on which one they're in. So just wanted to point that out there in the top of the window. So with regard to the business intelligence area, including the smart lists, in 2015 R2 we have the display debits before credits. Unbelievable how long it's taken for us to be able to get that feature into GP. We've waited for it for a really long time, really grateful for it. So in the past versions, they actually were alphabetical, so credit always came before debit. They've fixed that, and it's not only fixed with regard to smart lists, but also in Excel reports and database tables and views. So in the database tables themselves, the debits are before the credits. Then in GP 2016, they added the ability to be able to export that Excel information or that smart list information to Excel as numbers. So prior to 2016, whenever you did an export from a smart list into Excel, those values were coming in as text instead of number formats, and creating some challenges to be able to convert those columns. So 2016 they fixed that, and it's actually being held in the database as a numeric value and coming into your Excel spreadsheet that way. Again, with regard to a combination of not only smart lists but also workflows, which are available in 2015 R2. You had the ability to be able to create SQL views using Smart List Designer, but you also had the ability to be able to route those SQL views through like an IT person using the workflow so that they could approve those SQL views before they impacted your SQL database. So a really great security kind of thing, such that users who have access to create SQL views weren't doing so without having some oversight, which might have some impact for your SQL server and your usability of your SQL server and validation of data. So those workflows in combination with the Smart List Designer's SQL view. Then in 2016, in addition to that, we had the ability to import and export smart lists from the designer. So in order to be able to have smart lists from one company or one environment to another. So if you have a development environment that you need to be able to start working on your upgrade, you can be able to take those smart lists from one company or one database, one environment, and put them into another one using the Smart List Designer, which is a core tool out of GP as of 2015, and be able to use this import-export functionality to export out to an XML file, import it into another company using that XML file, and you now have availability to that same smart list in those different companies and or environments. Okay, so we're going to jump then over to our demo environment. And we're going to look at some of those features that we just talked about. So we're going to start by looking at Smart Lists. So you'll notice that up here on my toolbar, I actually have my Smart List set right here into my toolbar so that no matter which window I have open, I can get to my Smart List quickly just by clicking on this button. So if you don't already know how to add buttons to your toolbars, send Michael a raised hand at this point, and he can write down who you are, and we can make sure that you get in the information to add the Smart List button to your toolbar so that you have this quick access to it. That'll be one of your benefits for participating in our webinar today. I'm going to go ahead and open my Smart List. And then I'm going to navigate to the Financial folder. So I'll click on the plus next to Financial and the plus next to my account transactions to open that folder. And I've created and saved a favorite here that's just at the top of my list with number 1 on it so I could get easy access to it. And what I see is when I open this subset of my account transactions is that indeed my debit amounts are showing up ahead of my credit amounts. I do want to make note at this point that all of the demo that we will see in today's webinar is being done out of GP2016. So as you probably are aware, all of the feature sets, all of those changes are cumulative, so whatever you had in 2015 R2 and before will be reflected in this 2016 version, so all of our demo will come out of the 2016 version so that you can see the latest version and we don't have to go back and forth between the two versions. Okay, so debits before credits. Then we're also going to look at how this same list looks as exported to Excel such that we can see the new feature that's offered in 2016 where the dollar amounts are actually numeric values as opposed to the text values that they were in previous versions. So my Excel worksheet will open. I can go to one of the values here in what would be a numeric value account and my debit amount. I'll look at the format cells and be able to see that it's set already as a numeric format using some decimal places and so forth that come from the values that are in my defaults, so 5 decimal places, which accommodates the largest value that's available through GP. So that's a 2015 feature as well as a 2016 feature. The other thing I wanted to be able to show you then is that import-export button that's available in 2016. So when I click the down arrow, I can see that export and import are both available to me based on the spreadsheet or the Smart List values that are showing on my list currently. I can export that right out and then be able to import it into another location as I would choose. Okay, so with regard to distributions enhancements then, on our GP2015 R2 feature was the first that we saw the purchasing all-in-one document view. This view is related to all purchasing documents for a single transaction in one window. So within this example, you'll see we have purchase orders, receipts, invoices, payments, and even returns as it relates to a number of documents, and it can show 5 at a time. You'll notice at the bottom here that you can show the next 5 and the previous 5, or you can choose individual transactions, and we'll look at that in just a couple of minutes in the demo environment. You can select a specific purchasing invoice, and the window will refresh to show the POs, the receipts, and the payments that are related to that specific document. And this window is available on a number of different in a number of different ways. So you can choose it from the menu, but you can also choose it from the toolbar at the top of other windows, like the vendor maintenance window and the purchasing inquiry window. So the purchasing all-in-one document view in GP2015 R2. Then in GP2016, we have the addition of the sales all-in-one view. So very similar kind of thing, only in the sales side we get to see quotes, orders, invoices, cash receipts against those, and then also the credits and the returns. Again, they could be accessed from the actual area page, from the menus at the top, from the customer maintenance window ribbon at the top, and many of the other sales inquiry windows. As well in GP2016, we have the inventory all-in-one document view. So any inventory transactions that you may have can be represented in that all-in-one document view so that you can get all of the details about a specific item. And we'll look at that in the demo environment as well. Okay, so distribution series. Let's go back to our demo. And we're going to start by looking at some of the all-in-one views. So I'm going to go to my purchasing area page. And I'll first note that if I go to my cards section to a vendor record, I can choose any one of my vendor records, and at the top of the window is the all-in-one view access. When I open it this way, it will already be restricted to the ACE Travel Company as the vendor in that view. I also, in my inquiry pane, have the purchasing all-in-one view available to me here as well. So again, this is GP2015 R2 functionality. So I can choose the vendor that I want to be looking at, so we'll just stay with our ACE Travel Company. I have a number of different columns and a number of different features that I can use to look with. So if I start over here with purchase orders, I have the ability to be able to click on this funnel looking thing, which is actually a filter. And in this filter then I have the ability to indicate whether I want to see open purchase orders, historical purchase orders, or both. And if I wanted to refine this search to only a specific purchase order, I can say purchase order, and notice that I have the word contains. So I don't even have to know the whole purchase order number or need to put in that pesky leading PO to be able to find a specific purchase order. I can say PO contains 2072 and apply that filter. I also have some options that I can apply additional filters for any of the other fields that I might choose to, like whether they're on hold, the PO status, even a workflow status for that purchase order, to be able to restrict this list. When I click OK, now my list, my overall list, is now showing only PO number 2072 with any receipts, invoices, payments, or returns that apply to that specific purchase order. This down arrow gives me some additional details about that specific purchase order. So if I've got my activated workflows, I can see that whether there's workflow status or even whether it's not activated for that status. But I'd also know then whether the workflow had routed this for approval and gotten approval for the purchase order. I can see the required date, ship method, and so forth. So some of the baseline information about my PO that I might need to know without actually opening the purchase order. I can scroll back and forth to purchase orders that are near that one, and then I also have the ability to actually open the PO itself using the blue hyperlink to open the PO where I can see the inquiry window. Notice that it is the inquiry window for that specific PO so that I can get the rest of the details on that purchase order as I need to. By clicking on the checkbox in the top of the window, I restrict this even further to show those additional columns as it relates to this specific PO. I can then also clear those. So the filter with the slash on it here clears that group of filters. Uncheck that. I get my whole list of options to come back again. And then I also have an options button at the top of the window. So if in my environment I never allow purchase order returns, I can use this options button to be able to indicate which of these columns I might choose to include or not include. So if I unchecked returns, I wouldn't ever be seeing a list of returns if that wasn't applicable. I might also be able to include credit documents if that was a part of my environment. So I get some detailed choices there that I get to make. Okay, so again, purchasing all in one view, GP2015 R2. Very similarly, if I switch over to sales, I have the option to be able to navigate in my inquiry pane to my sales all in one view, where I could choose a customer in my filter, can see the quotes, the orders, the invoices, and so forth for my air and fits electrical, as well as any of the details along with them. Again, using that check mark, I would be able to say, for this specific order, I want to see the invoices associated with it and the cash receipts that may be associated with it, and then be able to see the details there. So some great functionality there in the sales. And then also GP2016 in the inventory area. In the inquiry section, we have the inventory all in one view as well. Now I want to make note that in the inventory one, although other kinds of transactions impact inventory, so clearly when we do a sales transaction, it's reducing inventory. When we do a purchase order transaction, it's increasing inventory, but those really have their own all-in-one views. This inventory all-in-one view is related to inventory type transactions that are initiated through an inventory transaction. So stock counts, inventory adjustments, those kinds of things are the things that we would see in the inventory all in one view. So I'll choose my 100 XLG green phone. Thought I had some transactions in there. Let's try this one. There we go. So I have one transaction document in the inventory for this SD-RAM phone. I can open it up and see that it was actually an item transaction entry, so adjustment type, where I've increased my inventory by that quantity. I do also have the opportunity to open this using that cards record as well as the inventory item transaction record. So here again on my inventory area page, if I'm in item transaction inquiries, I have the ability to look up my green phone from here and go to the all-in-one view right off of that item transaction inquiry, as well as use the all-in-one view to go right back to my item inquiry to be able to see those details from there. So it's a nice link back and forth to a couple of different inquiry windows that give me some real functionality in being able to see my inventory item transactions. Okay. Then here in my financial series, GP2015 R2, was when we had that ability to be able to automatically deposit cash receipts. There's a setup within the company setup options window to be able to turn that on and off using that automatically post cash receipt deposits. The GP2015 R2 functionality was a one-to-one relationship, so if you post a cash receipt, it becomes an individual deposit. In GP2016, those automatic deposits of cash receipts can be done by batch. So the screenshot there that I have shows the cash receipts posting journal to be able to indicate how that would look posting multiple receipts together in a batch. And when the automatically post cash deposits is marked and you post a batch with cash receipts in it, one deposit will be created for all the cash receipts in the batch. If you do transaction level posting, each transaction creates a separate deposit. So I felt like those were important for us to be able to call out not only in the slide but also verbally, because that does make a difference to how you'd want to do your transactions. GP2015 R2 gave us the ability to be able to combine the open and history inquiries into a single window. So in versions previous to 2015 R2, there were two different choices that you made on that financial inquiry windows. You either chose summary inquiry or historical summary inquiry. No, that's no longer necessary as of 2015 R2. They're the same windows. You just choose the year that you want to be looking at. Any of the go-tos would be able to drill you right back into that specific open or history year. GP2016, the credit card payment option on batches becomes available. So we're going to take a look at that as well in practice. We have an option for a computer check batch to pay those by credit card. It does create a payment to be processed for your accounts payable vendor, and you can do a remittance form that will show the print to show all the invoices that had been paid by that. Okay, so let's go take a look then at those in our demo environment. So I'll go back to my financial area page. I'm going to start out in the inquiry pane. So financial, inquiry, and summary. So this is 2015 R2 feature, where I can choose a GL account. Apparently we didn't have many employee advances. Let's pick better. Okay. So in any particular year, open or historical, would all be found in this list of years that you can access, change the year, so you don't have to change windows or open the correct window. Then once you're in the inquiry of the summary, any of the drill backs that you use, so the hyperlinks to drill back to the detail inquiries, would open for that specific year based on the inquiry that you're looking from. You do also have the ability to go directly to the detail inquiry window as opposed to going from summary to detail to be able to look at the specific year that you would choose to, either open or history. And you can drill back even further to be able to get to the specific journal entry. GP2016 batch payables by credit card, so I'm going to change here over to my purchasing area page. In the transactions section, I'll navigate to batches. So this is my payables batch entry window. I'm going to create a new batch, my initials. And the origin for this batch is it's going to be a computer check batch. So once I choose computer check, you'll notice that I have 3 payment options now available to me, one of which is credit card. So at the point when you're choosing the radio button here on this payment method, it's actually driving the choices that you make as the next choices in your window. So notice that when I have it on check, it's asking me which checkbook I want to take those funds from. When I have it on credit card, it changes that and asks me which card I want to pay using. So I'll choose the credit card for my gold credit card. And I want to open the credit card here using the hyperlink to look at the card name for a second and show you that this credit card is set up to create a transaction for my vendor ID for Woodgrove 001. So we'll look at that and the impact this has when we create those payable transactions to be paid by this credit card. So Woodgrove 001. So when I click on the Transactions button, I'm going to navigate out in my Go-To here to my Edit Payables Check Batch, which opens the window where I get to choose my checks. So we'll choose to pay something to my ACE Travel vendor by placing a check mark on this pane. It creates the option to pay any or all of the transactions that are open to be paid to that specific vendor. So we'll just pay one of them today. So we're going to pay this transaction for $596.03. Click the Process button, which opens my Print Payables Checks window. I'll process that. I get the Process Payables Remittance window, so I'm going to either print one of the three of these things. One of these three processes happens. Either an alignment form, which for the most part we don't really use those anymore. Those were for pre-printed documents for the most part. So I'll put the radio button first here to my remittance form. Notice that does enable the ability to send that document in an email. So if I wanted to send that off to someone as part of an email attachment, I could do that. And I'll click the process here, which will give us an ability to see as a template view, which is a Word document, on screen, what that remittance advice will look like for the specific payment that we made. I'll take just a second here for Word to open. And I would find this check remittance that I could then be able to send to a vendor to indicate payment against that ACE Travel transaction. That would let them know that it was paid based on a credit card transaction. Once I've got my remittance form, then I can click the Post button and process. And I'll look at those posting journals on screen so you can see the impact that's having for my GL distributions. So the first document that I see is a computer check posting journal. Notice that it's going into and out of accounts payable. That's because it effectively moved it from due and payable to the ACE Travel Company to due and payable to the credit card vendor. So our other registers will show the additional information, including the distributions, again in and out of the same GL account because it's still accounts payable. It's just moved to a new vendor now. The checkbook posting journal actually gives me a notice that this transaction couldn't be posted to bank reconciliation because the checkbook ID doesn't exist. So I'm not entirely clear why Microsoft made that be the message, but it is an indication that it's not impacting your bank reconciliation or your checkbook because there really is no check information that impacts your checkbook as of yet. Okay. And then I would have the ability to be able to go into my AP transactions, so I'll look in the inquiry section for my transactions by vendor, but I'm going to look at my Woodgrove vendor to see that what it created was a transaction, an open transaction, to pay Woodgrove Bank, who's the credit card vendor, for the amount that we now owe them, as opposed to what we owed Ace Travel. So some really great feature for those of you who like to pay accounts payable using credit cards. Okay, back to our Human Resources and Payables features. GP2015 R2, we had the ability to be able to mask Social Security numbers on payroll and HR reports. So in many cases prior to this, we had to do report modifications in order to have those Social Security numbers not show up on reports where you wouldn't want to make them available to others. Now in 2015 R2, you can mask those. GP2016, we added some ease-of-use payroll posting account setups using the navigation lists to be able to roll out those payroll posting accounts. At the system level, there's document attachments for workflow emails, 2015 R2, so you can send actual attachments as a part of an email so that the person that's approving through email would have an availability to see that actual document and make the approval based on it without ever logging into GP. In 2016, you can also include a Word template that's for batch approvals. So if you want your approver to be able to approve general journal entries before they're posted, they would actually get a Word template form of the transaction edit list so they can look at all the transactions on that transaction edit list and then reply with an approval or rejection based on workflow without having to send them anything else. So those are a great new feature for 2016. I've included a workflow types slide here just to show you what was available in the workflows and when. So GP2013 R2 was the first ones, GP2015, and then we haven't had any new workflow types in 2016. Workflow options, 2015 R2, we had several new options that were available, including some email notifications that you could customize the message. So the subject and the the text of your email could all be customized to be what you needed it to be. Then in 2016, we had that ability to reassign those notifications based on them being sent to someone else, or as a delegation of tasks, an escalation of tasks, or if there was an alternate approver. The GP2016 workflow condition management, this 2016 feature had to do with being able to route things if the condition wasn't met. So for instance, if you gave someone a time limit of 8 hours to respond to an approval activity and they didn't, in versions up to GP2015 R2, it sort of got left in limbo. There wasn't any place for it to go if they didn't take action. Now you have the ability to indicate that you want it to either continue to the next step or reject it back to the person who had submitted it so that they would know to be able to submit it to a different approver or to take other action on it. Okay, Michael, would you run our second poll for us, please?
Oops, I think I was muted there. Yeah, it should be on the screen now.
Thank you.
And the question is, do you believe it would be a valuable business choice to upgrade at each new version available? So we'll give about 45 seconds for you guys to get your answers in. All right, I think that's just about everyone. So we had 22% say yes, 4% said no, and 74% only when new features dictate an upgrade.
Very interesting.
And I'll go ahead and give you back screen.
Thank you for participating in that. I appreciate it. Okay, so the last couple of slides, I want to be sure and leave plenty of time for us to be able to have some questions. So the last few slides really are just highlights and recaps. So there's a few of the additional features that I've included in here based on specific modules that include going from GP2013 R2 into 2015 and into 2016. So these will give you some options to be able to go back to the slide deck or to the recording of this and see if there are some specific things that maybe we didn't have time to cover in the demo environment today that would lead you to think you need more information about any one of these specific features, in which case we'd be happy to be in touch with you to talk to the specific needs that you have or the features that you're interested in. So in each of the different modules, the things that were available. And with about 10 minutes left then, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions, Michael, and then in the midst of the questions, if you don't see anything coming right in, then we can also do that last poll.
Okay, yeah, we haven't had any questions submitted so far.
Okay.
Would you like to do the poll now?
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, I'll launch this last question here, guys. And the question is, how would you like to become aware of the new features in released versions? And that should be on your screen now. We'll give another 15 minutes or so seconds for that poll to end. All right, so majority of people are in. We have 56% that say webinar, 32% InterDyn email campaigns, 4% BMI newsletters, and 8% a BMI personal call from your account manager.
Great, that's good to hear. So I'm glad to know that the webinars seem to be like a successful way to be able to communicate these kinds of things with you. So while we wait to see if there's any other questions, I'll just go back to these slides a little bit and speak to a couple of the others available. Michael, if you get some questions, please stop me.
Okay.
We'll address those. So a couple of the other features that I didn't mention earlier on in 2016 are the ability to be able to enter prepayments for the entire purchase order total amount. So in versions prior to that, the purchase order prepayments were available, but unfortunately didn't include those values that were in the lower section of the purchase order window, like the freight and the tax and the miscellaneous. So that's been remedied in GP 2016. It now is the entire purchase order total. So that's a great new feature. Those prepayments are a really nice way to be able to tie funds that you send out to a specific purchase order so that they don't get commingled with other prepayment funds on the vendor's record. Document attachments for project time and expense. So again, some really great things that are available in the project accounting part of our GP solution offering. So project accounting requisition entry is also available in 2016.
And we do have one question that came in.
Okay.
Are the credits amounts in SmartList actually negative amounts rather than positive numerical values?
No, they're not. Credits are still they're still held as just a value in the SQL cell, and so they do not have any negative on them. No.
Awesome. Yeah, that was the only one we've had submitted yet.
Okay. I'll back up just a little bit more then and speak to some of the other features that we didn't touch on yet for financials and system. So for any of those of you who are using analytical accounting, there has long been an issue with giving users access to specific sections or dimensions that were a part of analytical accounting. So GP2016 gave us the ability to be able to roll those out more globally with a user access setting. So really great new feature there for anyone using AA. That makes that so much easier. There is a new budget exception report. When you're doing an import from the Excel-based budgeting, that gives you the exceptions, anything where there's duplicate GL accounts in the information that you're importing, so that you know to be able to go and make remedy on those on your import file and be able to consolidate those, or in the past you may have only gotten one of the two values if you had it listed there multiple times. Then you also have the budget import warnings. So there's a warnings page that will print based on any other warnings in the import that make you aware of what might have not gone exactly as you would hope when you do those budget imports. We've had the ability to be able to scan pages into an attachment directly, as opposed to scanning a file into potentially a saved folder and then attaching that based on a saved document. So in 2016 you can actually scan multiple pages to an attachment directly to the attachment. Those are then held in the SQL database. So great new ability to be able to control those documents, making us much more of a paperless environment without having to use additional third parties to do that. So not entirely. There are still value in having some of those ISVs, but a little closer to being able to have that kind of functionality right out of the box. Any other questions come in, Michael?
No questions. We did have a couple comments, but...
Okay. Okay, so the last then was in terms of distribution for GP2016, and the only other ones that I would typically have pointed out here is EFT for payables and receivables has a file format that's available for Scotiabank now. There were so many requests for that Scotiabank format that Microsoft has decided to go ahead and include it with the file formats for EFTs. So that's available to those of you who need to have that file format. And I think that was the bulk of the content that we'd hoped to be able to cover today. So Michael, if we didn't have any other questions, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, yeah. So we don't have any more questions at this time, but yeah, if any later questions do come up, please feel free to reach out to Sandy. Her email is on the screen, or your account executive if you'd like to learn more about anything you heard during today's presentation. And on behalf of everyone at InterDyn BMI, we just want to thank you for your attendance and have a great Memorial Day weekend.